And red brings us Battle Rattle Shaman. But first, hello everybody. Again, welcome to another video in the Coreset 21 set review. I am Logan and this is the Blind Eternity. We will be covering every single card in the set, talking about its playability in, just in general, honestly. If I think it's going to have any viability in constructed, I'll say that. If I think it's going to be playable and limited, I'll say that. If it's a card that jumps out to me as a playable card for Commander, which is my favorite format, I'll tell you that too. So just kind of an all-around perspective here. So let's get started with the Battle Rattle Shaman. Say that 5 times fast, please. Battle Rattle Shaman, Battle Rattle Shaman, Battle Rattle Shaman, Battle Rattle Shaman, Battle Rattle Shaman. Got it. Okay. 4 mana, 2/2. Goblin Shaman. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have target creature get +2/+0 until end of turn. It's a playable uncommon for limited. Beyond that, no constructed viability whatsoever. Bolt Hound is a 3 mana 2/2 with haste. When it attacks other creatures you control, you get +1/+0 until end of turn. I've seen some people try to make this card work in constructed. I don't think it's good. I think there's just better things to be doing at 3 mana than this. But definitely play it in limited. This is a very cool card for those go wide red strategies. It's going to definitely give your creatures a nice boost the turn it comes in. Play it limited. Bone Pit Brute. 6 mana for a 4/5 menace, so that's pretty good. When Bone Pit Brute enters the battlefield, target creature gets +4/+0. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like this card. Decent limited card, not playable and constructed. Brash Taunter. It's a 5 mana 1/1. What? Only a 1/1 for 5 mana? What's it do, Tom? Okay, well, it's a goblin. Indestructible. Whenever Brash Taunter is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. Okay. So it's got the Stuffy Doll effect. Pseudo Stuffy Doll effect. And pay 2 and a red. Tap it. It fights another target creature. Okay, so it's kind of cool. So I can imagine pretty cool play sequences with this in limited, because I don't think it's going to see play in constructed. But in limited, you block their big dude with this, and before damage, you activate the ability to fight it, so it gets dealt damage. And then when the creature deals damage to it on the block, it deals even more damage. So that's really cool. That's very cool. Hot. Burn Bright. 3 mana. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Barely constructed playable. Or barely limited playable. Not constructed playable at all. And here is our Planeswalker for the set, Chandra, Heart of Fire. 5 mana for 5 loyalty Planeswalker named Chandra. +1, discard your hand, then exile the top 3 cards of your library until end of turn. You may play cards exiled this way. +1, it deals 2 damage to any target. -9, search your graveyard and library for any number of red instant and sorcery cards. Exile them, then shuffle your library. You may cast them this turn. Add 6 red. Oh god, this card is so... That was a genuine yawn, because this card just is boring. I don't know why, since Chandra Torch of Defiance, they just can't make Chandra good. Like, okay, let's improve this card real fast. +1, all of that's fine. Except until end of turn, make this until the end of your next turn. What's so bad about that? You have freaking light up the stage, which is effectively just 1 mana, get 2 cards off the top until your next turn. Why couldn't it do that? +1 for the 2 damage to any target, sure, that's fine. Leave that alone. And then why not, like, if it's a -9, so we're gonna have to keep this around for 5 turns to get that. Okay, let's do search your library for just like 3 cards, and we'll just cast them for free. I mean, that might be too busted, but I don't care. If you're gonna honestly sit there and say that I have to keep this around for 5 turns, and all I get is 6 mana and any number of instant or sorceries and exile that I then can only cast that turn, nah, I'm good. Like, this card is just boring. I don't think this is going to see any play in Constructed. And, like, yeah, it's a Planeswalker, so you're going to play it in Limited because 2 damage to any target is going to be fine, but this card is just a disgrace. Chandra's Incinerator, though, is hot. No pun intended, pun intended, hashtag pun intended. 6 mana, 6/6. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. Trample. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Yeah, this card's going to see play in Constructed for sure. I don't know if it's standard per se, but like older formats where you got like Lightning Bolt, played in Limited too. Chandra's Magmut is a 2 mana 2/2 that taps to deal damage to target player or planeswalker. This is just one of those cards that if you get into kind of a cluttered board state, it gets you where you need to be. It brings inevitability. They will have to kill this at some point. Limited only, no constructed play. Chandra's Pyreling is a 2 mana 1/3. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, it gets +1/+0 and gains double strike until end of turn. So there again, it's going to be a non-combat damage theme for Limited, and that's where this will see play. Limited, nowhere else. Conspicuous Snoop. 2 mana for a 2/2 Goblin Rogue. Hey, look at that rogue again. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast goblin spells from the top of your library. As long as the top card of your library is a goblin card, Conspicuous Snoop has all activated abilities of that card. This card is absurd. It's going to spawn a whole combo deck in Modern. It's a very simple combo. You have this in play. You play Boggart Harbinger. Boggart Harbinger tutors a goblin to the top of your library. You put Kiki Jiki. You make a hell of a ton of Conspicuous Snoops because Kiki Jiki copies non-legendary creatures. And then once you decide 7,556 Snoops is probably enough, you then copy the Harbinger, putting to the top, I don't know, Mog Fanatic or just any goblin that sacrifices itself or another goblin to then deal damage or make people lose life, like Siege Gang Lieutenant, I think it is, the black one that has sacrifice a goblin. Target opponent loses life, you gain a life. It's a 2-card combo on turn 3. Is that good enough for Modern? Probably. Anywhere else to say, um, if you get enough goblins, you can play it in limited, I guess. But like, I don't really care about it. Crash through 1 mana. Creatures you control gain trample and draw a card. It's a fine trick in red. Limited only, no constructed. Destructive Tampering, 3 mana. Choose one, destroy an artifact or creatures without flying can't block this turn. Sideboard card for limited. That's it. Double vision. I've got double vision. So 5 mana enchantment. When you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is an EDH card through and through. Excuse me. This card does nothing the turn you play it, unless you play it really late. But after that, after the turn you play it, it gains viability. You don't want to be paying 5 mana for nothing in limited or constructed. Play it in your EDH spellcaster decks. Fiery Emancipation. Woo! 3 and 3 red for an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. Awesome possum. I'm all about it. EDH card only. I don't think this is gonna hit constructed unless there's like a big red deck in standard, maybe, because technically it's not a do nothing enchantment the turn you play it, if you play it into on your first main phase, because then your creatures do a lot of damage, so it could be okay. But I don't see it. I don't think it's going to see play in anything but EDH. I mean, okay, limited, yeah, this will end the game. You play this on your first main phase, you win. Furious Rise coming to us again from Theros. 3 mana at the beginning of your end step. If you control a creature with 4 power or greater, you exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Furious Rise. So basically, until your next end step, you can play that card. And play is relevant because it allows you to play lands. This card's great and limited, not constructor playable. Furor of the Bitten. It's an aura that gives a enchanted creature +2/+2 and attacks each combat if able. For 1 red, that's fine. Your super aggressive decks will play it in limited. Nowhere else. Gidrak, the Crown Scourge. 3 mana for a 5/4 flyer. That's well above rate. What's the downside, you might ask? Well, it can't attack unless you control 4 more artifacts. That's pretty steep. Like that seems fair. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. Okay. So it seems like, again, this is kind of how the design is working nowadays. We're going to give you a card with tremendous upside. We're going to give you a perceived downside, but that card also is going to be able to overcome that downside all on its own. And that's fine. Like, this card is fine. I'm sure somebody's going to try to play it in standard, because, I mean, a 5 mana 5/4 for 3, that's pretty good. And then red has some good removal spells, so I definitely think this thing could be attacking maybe as soon as the next turn, because you could be playing other artifacts in the deck, besides just relying on its own trigger. So yeah, sure, why not? Play it in limited too, it's great. Goblin Arsonist. So 1 mana 1/1, when it dies, it deals damage to any target. Clean designs. I like it. Keep it up. Nothing else to say about this card. Play it in limited. It might see constructed play if there's some low to the ground Goblin deck still, but beyond that, eh. Goblin Wizardry. 3 mana, instant, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Goblin Wizards with prowess. Limited only. No constructed viability. Havoc Jester, 5 mana, 5/5. Devil. Whenever you sack a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. So this is Mayhem Devil with a bigger bigger body. Limited playability, no constructed playability. That the sacrifice deck in standard and any constructed formats are just not trying to pay 5 mana for this effect. Heartfire Immolator, 2 mana, 2/2 with prowess, human wizard. Pay a red, sacrifice it. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So this kind of goes with some of those guys that come into play and buff your guys. So like the 1 6 mana guy that could give him +4, so then you crash in for 6 if he didn't die or if he's going to get blocked. Boom. Sacrifice him, take out a creature. Limited only. Hellkite Punisher, 7 mana, 6/6 flyer. It's got fire breathing, so pay a red, it gets +1/+0. It's a fine limited card. Hobble Fiend, 2 mana, 2/1, trample, pay 1, sack another creature, put a +1 counter on Hobble Fiend. So this is another enabler for the sacrifice deck. Thank goodness you have to pay a mana for it, otherwise this would just be absurd. But yeah, it's a payoff card. Igneous Cur, 2 mana, 1/2, pay 1 and a red. It gets +2/+0 until end turn. So it's kind of got super fire breathing, if you will. This card's fine. Played and limited nowhere else. Kinetic Augur. It's a 4 mana human shaman. That is a star 4. So let's see what the star is. So it's got trample. Its power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. When it enters the battlefield, discard up to 2 cards and then draw that many cards. So you can enable it yourself and at least make it a 2/4 the turn it comes into play. And then you'll get some card draw out of it, which is sweet. Or if you have enough in there, you don't have to discard cards and you don't have to draw cards, but it's cool. I like that it gives you the choice and doesn't just make you discard. Play it unlimited. That's it. Onake Ogre. 3 mana, 4/2, vanilla. If you have to play it, play it. Don't play it if you don't have to. The only thing this really even synergizes with is the Furious Rise to get some pseudo card draw. Other than that, I'm not impressed. Pitch Burn Devils. 5 mana, 3/3. When it dies, it deals 3 damage to any target. So it's like the Goblin Arsonist, but bigger brother. It's fine and limited. That is it, though. Sanctum of Shattered Heights. So this is number 4 of the shrines. 3 mana, legendary enchantment shrine. 1 mana, discard a land or shrine card. Sanctum of Shattered Heights deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of shrines you control. This is the other one so far that we've seen that I think is playable almost on its own. Maybe not necessarily on its own, but if there's a deck that tries to do the shrine thing, this lets you discard your duplicate copies of the shrines that you already have in play. So, and it acts as a removal. This might be okay for a shrines deck in limited. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna try to draft the shrines deck, especially if I open a certain card that we'll talk about later. But yeah, this is fine. They're all fine. Like I said, if you can make it happen unlimited, do it. If you can't, it's not going to see constructed play, I don't think. Scorching Dragonfire. We've got this card in standard already, so it's going to be around for a little bit longer. 2 mana, deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If it would die, exile it instead. So, just premium red removal right now. Shock's coming back, so that's cool. Just simple toned down lightning bolt. 1 red, deals 2 damage to any target. Very clean. Will definitely be in super low to the ground mono red decks or red X decks. It's good. It's a good card. Played and limited all the time, and it'll see constructed play for sure. Soulseer, 3 mana, instant. It deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible till end of turn. So these cards are really cool. I like the cards that kind of go around indestructibility. So yeah, this is good removal. Really good removal. And limited, it probably won't see constructed play. Spellgorger Weird. I believe this card is just in Ravnica, so I think just keeping it around, I guess. 3 mana 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Cool. So that non-creature deck is around, you know, whatever. Limited fodder. Subira Tuzidi Caravaner. Okay. 3 mana 2/3 haste. Pay 1. Another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Pay 1 and a red. Tap, discard your hand until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is like the top deck or the top of the curve for your red X aggro decks. And that activated ability is very cool, that second one. So yeah, draw some cards. Draw some cards, my guys. Sure Strike. 3 mana for a combat trick where for an instant you get +3/+0, and against first strike until end of turn for one of your creatures. Limited. Nothing else. Terror of the Peaks. This card is amazing. Okay, so Terror of the Peaks. 5 mana, 5/4 flyer. Spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Why? Why does it need the last line of text? Why? Because WotC is a subsidiary of Hasbro, and they have to push the power creep. They have to continue making sales. Otherwise, they're not worth it to Hasbro. In other news, this is also the same strategy, the same thing as all the other cards that are in this area. The card has to have just that extra line of text that is pushes it from a good mythic to an absurd mythic. And that's just how the design team is working nowadays. Played in all the things. Thrill of Possibilities coming back to us as a 2 mana instant. As an additional cast to the spell, you discard a card. You draw 2 cards. It's a good red card draw. It's going to see play in Constructed because it's good. And play in Limited too. Traitorous Greed. 4 mana sorcery, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste. And then add 2 mana of any one color. I don't know why we're adding 2 mana of any one color and what that has any relevance to this card existing. Besides just making it a 2 mana threaten effect. I mean, you're going to play this in Limited, but that's it. Transmogrify. I'm personally excited about this card. Transmogrify is a 4-mana sorcery that exiles target creature. That creature's controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. That player then puts that card onto the battlefield and shuffles the rest of their library. I've been toying with a deck in Pioneer that I'm calling Luca Creativity. And it kind of is the... what is that card called? Indomitable Creativity deck. That had a little traction, little buzz there. I've added Luca to that deck, and now I think this card might help make a splash and just give it a little bit more consistency in being able to polymorph like a token into like an Emrakul or something. So it's cute. It's going to be played and constructed if a deck like that is actually viable. You can play this in limited if you are in need of removal. Turn to Slag. This is a real blast from the past, if you will. 5 mana to deal 5 damage to target creature. Destroy all equipment attached to that creature. So I guess they anticipate there being a decent equipment deck in limited, because this is not seeing the light of day in any constructed format ever. Turret Ogre. 4 mana for a 4/3 reach. With when it enters the battlefield, if you control another creature with power 4 or greater, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. It's fine. It's a fine limited card. Unleash Fury. 2 mana instant that doubles the power of target creature until end of turn. This could see constructed play for sure. I think it's pushed enough. And yeah, you're going to play it unlimited. Volcanic Geyser. Volcanic Geyser is a 2 red and X to deal X damage to any target. It's cool. Not like constructed playable, but in limited, this is going to be a finisher. I mean, you're going to cast this card to probably end your games if it's in your hand. So yeah, play it in limited. It's dope. Volcanic Salvo is 12 mana, big old tenor. Don't see that too often in the generic mana cost there. But this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. Volcanic Salvo then deals 6 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. I like it. Not constructed played. We'll see play in limited. Play this in limited. You will be happy. All right. And that wraps up Red for us today. So tell me what you think of Red down in the comments. Tell me what you think of my assessment here. And again, I don't know that Red really impresses me besides some of the rares and mythics from the set. I just didn't see any like uncommons that really kind of blow my mind. But definitely some good constructed playable cards in Red. And with that, we'll be moving on to our next video. At least if you're watching this in sequence, that's going to be black. Or no, green. Green. I know how Wooburg works. The next video will be green. But if you're not watching this in order, check out the other videos. And thanks for stopping by. See you in the next one.